Welcome back to 10 and 20, the official podcast of the Battle of Franklin Trust, where we talk about interesting aspects of Tennessee history in roughly 20 minutes. My name's Brad.
And my name's Sarah. If you'd like to order one of our podcast t-shirts, you better do it soon, because we're about to have a brand new design, a brand new color. So if you want to get the ones that we have now, get them while they last, you can go to our website, boft.org/podcast to pick them up.
Today we are interviewing Chip Huffman, who is the commander of one of the local chapters of the Sons of Union Veterans, and we're going to talk about the upcoming anniversary and illumination of the Battle of Franklin. So yeah, Chip, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in historic preservation?
I lived here in Nashville for nearly 30 years, saw signs around Nashville, around Franklin, didn't really pay much attention to them. Saw a book on television one day, an artist talking about his book, The Confederacy's Last Hurrah. And I was fascinated, got the book, and realized that all this happened in my backyard nearly. So I was just fascinated by the whole thing and started going to different round tables and different organizations to hear speakers, just trying to learn. The more I learned, the more I became involved, the more it was fascinating to me. So it's just evolved over the last 10, maybe 15 years. I don't remember for sure.
And so from that, did you start digging into your own family history?
I did, especially Sons of Union Veterans, of which I'm the commander of the Nashville chapter, which is actually called the Fort Donelson Camp, camp number 62, Sons of Union Veterans, although we meet at Fort Negley. It's a little confusing, but it's the local mid-Tennessee. There are two camps in Middle Tennessee, Camp 62. Camp 64 is out of Murfreesboro. But I started following that camp, going to meetings because they had speakers just to, again, learn, and then started digging in, assuming that since I was born and raised in Ohio, I assumed that I had ancestors. Eventually found that my great-great-grandfather had enlisted with Company F of the 104th Ohio Volunteer Infantry, 104th OVI. 104th was here at Franklin at the, right near the cotton gin. Part of the troops were the ones that broke when the Confederates broke through. My grandfather was not here. That's a long, complicated story. He was not here at that particular time. His brother had also enlisted with him in the 104th. He had been sent by the Army to Kentucky, to Indiana, to Illinois. I got his National Archive records following what had happened to him during his service. Apparently he was good with horses because they kept sending him places to commandeer horses to bring to the South for the war here in the Western Theater. He eventually must have been good enough that he transferred to the Teamsters, the men who drove the wagons, and he was assigned till the end of the war with the 23rd Corps ammunition train. Now, I cannot find in the records that he was here in Franklin, but since the 23rd Corps was here, I would assume they brought their ammunition train with them. Yeah. So I assume he was on one of the side streets here waiting for the bridges to be fixed so they could hightail it for Nashville.
Well, since you mentioned, I didn't realize that your ancestor was in the 104th, so you're familiar with the statue we recently unveiled at
they were in Company F. I was there for the reveal because Company F was the company that the lieutenant, I've forgotten his name now, that had the dog.
Daniel Stearns.
Daniel Stearns was
So for
Company F.
our listeners, because we haven't really talked about this much,
sure.
Just recently at Carter House, we unveiled a statue of a dog named Harvey, who was a mascot of the 104th Ohio Volunteer Infantry.
Yes, Harvey the War Dog.
And it's a really cool story because this regiment loved him. There's quotes of them, of his owner, Daniel Stearns, walking him up the battle line and his men giving him a pat on the head. And,
sure.
But
many pictures are show the dog.
Yeah, we don't want to give away too much, though, because I have a feeling we're probably going to do a podcast on Harvey relatively
soon.
Wow.
So a little tease there. But yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
That's cool. But so then how did you get involved with, let's talk about your memories of the illumination here.
Memories of Illumination. I've been to almost every one for the last, I don't know how long they've been doing it, at least 10 years, 15 maybe.
I feel like 2006 is is the number that comes to mind, but
I think so. I think 2006 was the first year that they actually put 10,000 luminaires out, and I don't know if that was the one over here at Carnton, but it was in a field. I have pictures of it. It was absolutely breathtaking to see that many in one field.
Yeah, it was on the field right outside here to the
next to the cemetery.
Absolutely amazing. And they had a speaker stand with some people portraying people that were in the battle, with music. They had some Civil War era bands. It was just a breathtaking event, and probably one of the first ones, if not the first one.
And what do you think? I mean, what for you is the reason that you want to keep coming back and participating every year?
Just to remember the thousands of soldiers that died, wounded, or were lost here at Franklin. It's amazing. So many people that live in this area, like I was 10 or 15 years ago, really don't realize what went on here. This charge here was a lot bigger than Pickett's charge at Gettysburg, although everybody knows about Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. People are just now starting to learn about the Confederate charge against the Union earthworks here at Franklin. It was an amazing, amazing feat, amazing bravery, and a horrible loss of life. By latest estimates, roughly 10,000 casualties at that battle. That's amazing to think about, and we need to not forget our history. We need to not forget. We need to be here. We need to remember the illumination is a perfect way. We discussed earlier working here at Carnton, and after a while, sometimes you don't really pay attention to what's going on. All of a sudden, the illumination and the reading of the names from the front porch of the Carnton plantation just really bring it home. And the candles last year, the luminaires inside the building with the Confederate guards stationed around was just wow.
Yeah.
Wow's the only term I can think of.
Right before we started recording, I was mentioning that, sometimes when you give tours here, like Sarah and I do, and you've been working here for a few years, you can be in the house and it's routine sometimes. Not that you forget about it, but it's just routine. Mm-hmm. But then those days where you see it in a different light, literally a different light, with thousands of luminaries all over the place, it makes you stop and think about it again. And those moments are kind of cool.
Well, that's why I think for everybody who lives in Franklin, when we live here every day, we sort of forget everything that has happened.
I travel the United States in my line of work most of my life, and everywhere you go, if you go to Colorado, the people who are born and raised in Colorado don't really appreciate the mountains. We go there and we're in awe. You don't appreciate what's right around you because you see it every day. But the illumination, the march that we do, the living history that's being done, I guess, this year, just brings to everybody's attention exactly what happened here.
Let's start with the march for a second.
Sure.
So what is involved in that? The
march has been going on for about as long as the illuminations. I don't know. Every year on the 30th, this year, we're lucky that the 30th and Saturday coincide because you do the illumination on the 30th always. The march is always on the Sunday closest to the 30th, because we feel that we get more people. This year, since it's on Saturday, both of them are happening the same day. It's a great day for people to see some living history, maybe run over, see the march, and then come back in time for the illumination. But what happens is that the local Sons of Confederate Veterans chapter leave from Winstead Hill, where the Confederates started their attack on the Union entrenchments here at Franklin on November 30th, 1864, and they walk in uniform. And they also have quite a few ununiformed supporters that walk with them. They walk up Columbia Avenue, as the Confederates did, toward the Carter House. My camp of the Sons of Union veterans meet at Pinkerton Park, which was part of Fort Granger. A lot of people don't understand that there was more than just the fort up on the hill. That whole area was where Pinkerton Park's at now, is where the soldiers who manned the fort, where they lived and stayed when they were manning the fort. So that's Fort Granger, Pinkerton Park there. We meet there, much smaller group, obviously, of Union supporters here in Tennessee, but we leave from there with a Franklin police escort and walk the streets, and we get to the Carter House just before the Confederates get there, keeping it timed as closely as we can. And, we go into a formation and do a salute. As the Confederates march by and salute back. It's a march of reconciliation. The war is over. We respect our Confederate brethren, and as much as they respect us.
It's interesting because, I mean, years after the war, that's what a lot of the older soldiers, once tensions die down a little bit, they reunite together and reconcile.
We have pictures of reunions at Carter House with both sides.
Yes, we do. There's tons of pictures of the two veterans side by side. The war is over. The United States is great. Let's all move on. So this is a march of reconciliation.
This year, I think we're anticipating a big turnout because not only is it a Saturday, like you mentioned, it's also the Saturday right after Thanksgiving.
True.
So if people still have their families around,
sure,
as long as the weather's even a little nice, I think people are going to come out.
Yeah, we have family coming in that have expressed an interest in staying over till Saturday and coming over for whatever they can of all the events. I mean, it's an all day event with lots to see and lots to do, lots for the kids to enjoy. The living history is amazing. And the living history starts in the morning, or?
Yeah, it starts at 9. So when we open, it'll go till probably about an hour before we start closing down the house for putting out the luminaries, things like that. So we'll have a number of different people here. We have
a bunch of different things planned that day. We have a battlefield tour with Eric, our boss, at 5 or 6. 5 a.m.
I think it's 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
early. I saw the Eric
another
Jacobson,
one at 8 a.m. And then throughout the day, we have reenactors here at the sites. And then we have the ceremony starting at 4 at Carnton, and then open houses at Carnton and Carter House for 2 hours after that.
Just amazing. If you miss this, you're missing a wonderful, wonderful time and a chance to learn history. And bring your kids, bring your children. About 2:00 is when the Confederates are stepping off from Winstead Hill, and the Union soldiers are stepping off in uniform from Fort Granger. Nice. And there will be, like I said, there'll be a lot more Confederates than there are Union, but there'll be all uniformed soldiers on both sides. Both sides will also have quite a few civilians in civilian clothes. Both sides will have some beautiful ladies in hoop skirts and period skirts and period. It's just the whole day is just beautiful. And then back over here for the illumination, right? The march will be done just in time to get back for the illumination.
Yeah, it works out that if you want to see everything, there's plenty of time to.
Sure.
So, and last year the weather was threatening. It seemed like it was going to be bad, but then we ended up deciding that rather than putting all the luminaries out in the fields, we were going to put them in the houses, and it was spectacular.
It was. I was here for that. It was spectacular. It was very, very different, but I didn't know how it was going to be, but it's a chance to look inside, these beautiful old homes that were here during the battle, and then to go in and have the luminaries there and the Confederate soldiers standing guard. It was a little breathtaking. No, it was a lot breathtaking.
I agree. Well, anything else you'd like to add before we finish up?
Anyone that would like to come, I think the Confederate camp has said the same thing on their Facebook page, but anyone that would like to come walk with either the Confederates from Winstead Hill at 2 or the Union from Pinkerton Park just below Fort Granger that'd like to come and walk with us in support of the soldiers are welcome to walk. You can also line up near the Carter House for the reconciliation ceremony. Absolutely fabulous time and a great learning experience. Bring the kiddos.
Do you have a website or anything or a Facebook page that promotes what times you're doing?
Yes, it's SUVCW. It's a Facebook page, SUVCW dash Fort Donaldson Camp number 62, I believe is.
I'll look it up to
Yeah,
be sure, and
we'll
we'll
put
plug
the
it into
link,
our outro.
Great,
All right.
excellent. Yeah, all the times will be posted. I do not know the Confederate link there, but there is a Confederate link as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're very glad that you were able to come.
Thank you.
Thank you to Chip Huffman for coming on and telling us your reflections about the Illumination. If you would like to learn more about that march, again, look up Fort Donaldson Camp number 62, Sons of Union Veterans, online to find out the times and the specifics.
And if you want to learn more about what the Battle of Franklin Trust is doing that day, as well as to figure out how to book tickets for some of those specialized battlefield tours, just head to boft.org/events. Follow 10 and 20 on Instagram at TENNIN20 podcast, 10 and 20 podcast on Instagram, or send us an email at podcast@boft.org.
And listen again in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much for listening.